Is it going to be private businesses that make politicians do the right thing? Again, unacceptable. A step backwards. That's what Coca-Cola and other companies are calling Georgia's new voting law. Republicans were clear on the sweeping legislation that goes so far as to ban giving water to voters as they wait in line. So why speak out now against a law that Democrats say will disproportionately affect black voters? Is it fear of boycotts? Or even the multitudes of conversation and emotion about racial issues in our country surrounding the George Floyd trial? It's all related. Georgia Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock, freshman senator but long in the game of social justice, joins us now to discuss this and more. It's good to see you, Senator.
Good to be here with you, Chris. Thanks so much.
Senator, let's discuss something that's not as well known and then talk about something that is painfully obvious. In the relief bill, though a freshman senator, you got a provision put into the bill to help your constituents, specifically black farmers, as part of the relief bill. What did you get done? Why did it matter so much?
Well, I'm very proud of the American Rescue Plan. And as you point out, one of the provisions that I specifically fought for was relief for farmers of color. It's the Farmers of Color Debt Relief Bill. We inserted it in the American Rescue Plan. It will provide $5 billion of debt relief and support to farmers who have historically experienced discrimination, even at the hands of our government, the U.S. Department of Agriculture. This is a long-standing problem. And what COVID-19 did was it both illuminated and exacerbated these long-standing disparities. Here was a chance to help folks who have been disproportionately impacted both by this virus and the virus of racism.
What did you learn in that process?
Well, I learned that, change is hard. I've understood that for a long time. As you point out, I was an activist before getting into the work of politics, an activist preacher. It wasn't my first time going to the Capitol. When I was sworn in, I've been to the Capitol many times, usually stirring up what my late parishioner, John Lewis, called good trouble. Good trouble. It's good now to be able to operate on this side, to turn my activism and agitation into legislation, my protests into public policy. I think representation matters. And as we engage the debates around COVID relief, around voting rights, criminal justice reform, a whole range of issues, I think it matters that there are diverse voices at the table and in the conversation.
So what do you say to proponents of the laws in Georgia now who say that this is being unfairly smeared, that they kept souls to polls provisions on Sundays, and that they just made it safer by reducing the number of drop boxes because they're tough to police and you have to be careful about harvesting, and that not allowing people to give food and water, that's just about electioneering, that there will be provisions for the poll workers to provide those things to people. They just don't want people gaining advantage by giving food and drink to people in line. Do you accept those defenses?
Oh, absolutely not. This is voter suppression, pure and simple. These are politicians who are so focused on maintaining their power that they're willing to do anything to stay in power, including undermine the basic tenets of the democracy itself. We have to push back hard. This is a 911 emergency for our democracy. And while it is playing out in obvious ways in this moment in Georgia, it's really happening in capitals all across the country. The violent insurrection that we saw visited upon our United States Capitol has now been spread out to state capitals all across the country. There are folk who are just hell-bent on taking the votes and the voices of the people that they don't want to hear. And that's why I'm a proud sponsor of the For the People Act. And I'm also pushing hard to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. We have to do it not only to protect black voters, but to protect young voters, to protect elderly and sick folks, anybody that some voters don't want to hear from. And, I really believe in democracy, Chris. I think that the four most powerful words in a democracy are "the people have spoken." And if we don't do anything in the Senate, we certainly have to make sure that the people's voices can be heard in all of the great debates that we will take on in the days ahead.
What are your thoughts about what you've seen so far in the, briefly, because we're just early in the trial, but the Floyd trial so far, the murder trial of George Floyd, what's your reaction so far?
It's heartbreaking, and there really are no words. I'm thinking about the Floyd family, praying much for them. Our hearts go out to them. Too often we've seen human beings turned into hashtags. You know, I'm tired of hashtags, Chris. We've been dealing with this for a long time. You know, early on in my career as a preacher, I was a seminary student finishing up my doctorate in New York City when an African immigrant named Amadou Diallo was shot several times by New York's finest, by the New York special elite unit of the New York Police Department. And as a seminary student, I went down with throngs of New Yorkers protesting, offered myself for the first time for arrest. That was in the late 1990s. And then we looked up this past spring and we saw a whole generation of young people who don't remember Amadou Diallo, who don't remember Rodney King. And we're still dealing with this issue. We've got to pass the George Floyd Act. It's past time to do something about criminal justice reform in this country.
Sadly, they don't have to remember Amadou Diallo or any of the others of our time because they've got a fresh slate of their own victims that are searing images in people's minds as young as 9 years old, as we're watching right now. It'll be interesting to see if leaders like you can get people on the same page of just wanting to stop the pain. Not about blame, but about pain. Senator Raphael Warnock, congratulations on getting something into this first relief bill targeted to communities of color and farmers in your constituency. That was a good pull, especially early on in your tenure. Be well and thank you.
Thank you. Great to be with you.